settlements. They have provided 4.2. There is a shortfall of 3.7. The judiciary has been budgeting for the 3 additional judges for the last 2 years, but Ministry of Gender has not provided other required funds, and we feel that if provided, the 3 judges for the industrial court will be appointed.
Honorable Chair, doesn't this come under judiciary? Because the judges are for judiciary, not for gender.
The industrial court judges, yes, operate under Ministry of Finance. They get subvention from Ministry of Gender. They get also a subvention. The salaries for the judges are budgeted at the judiciary, but all other costs, operational costs, are handled by the Ministry of.
So it is not appointment of judges, it is administrative costs.
The administrative costs. They are not appointing because there is no budget for the operation. Number 5, the national rollout and of empowering. This is Juakali. They have provided only 3 billion, and we have made our recommendation that additional money should be provided for, because it should be rolled out to the whole country. For now, they have just piloted on some few districts. Number 6 is the operationalization of the Medical Arbitration Board. Only 600 million has been provided, and yet the board requires around 6 billion. Number 7, it is also the advisory board, the labor advisory board. No money has been provided, and we have made recommendation that some money be provided to operationalize the board. The same applies to the national program to operationalize the minimum wage advisory board. The details are in our recommendation. I will read through. Number 9 is the system of arbitration and mediation and settlement, including digital case systems dispute, which requires that amount of money, around 10.5 billion. The number 10 is SEGOP, to implement special enterprise grant for older person program. They required 10 billion. It has been underfunded. Only 5 billion has been provided. Number 11 is the Green Jobs Just Transition Program. They require 15.9. Only 1 billion has been provided, so they have a shortfall of 14.9. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to read through the committee observations and recommendations for vote 18-018. 9.1, renovation. I've already read through. I will just go to the recommendation. The committee therefore recommends that Ministry of Finance avails funds worth UGX 5.0 billion in a phased manner to enable rehabilitation of dilapidated structures in the remand homes and reception centers and vocational rehabilitation centers. We have attached the details of those centers, and some land is already being encroached on because it is not even titled, and the structures there are ramshackle. Titling of Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development land across the country. I will go to the recommendation of the committee. Ministry of Gender should prioritize processing land titles. Ministry of Finance should provide 1 billion for processing land titles for this financial year as a start, because the requirement is 2 billion. Lowering of age eligibility for the SEG beneficiary. The Ministry of Gender has since 2010 been implementing SEG as a government of Uganda flagship social cash transfer assistance intervention for older person. The program provides a monthly transfer of 25 to older person aged 80 years and above to support them in meeting basic consumption needs and to live dignified lives. In November 2018, the government announced the national rollout of the grant to all districts in the country. The criterion was to begin with older persons who are 80 years and above, with commitment of lowering the age to 65 years within 3 years, while keeping those who were already on the program since 2010. During the cabinet sitting in September 2025, under reference CT 2025-132, approved the proposal to lower the eligibility age under SEG from the current 80 plus to 65 plus years. The committee noted that whereas government was proposing lowering the eligibility age from 80 plus to 60 plus, with the numbers of beneficiaries totaling to 1,048,598, the amount required is estimated at shillings 373.36 billion. However, what is provided in the financial year 2026-2027 budget is 1.22 billion, therefore leaving the funding gap of shillings 252.14 billion. As indicated below this table, the financial implication of achieving the lowering of age eligibility for SEG. The table currently at 80 plus, the required amount is 1.21, which has already been provided in the budget. If we go up to 65 plus, we require the 252.14000 billion. We are now making a proposal that they are just 70 plus, and they will be able to provide the money as we have made in our recommendation to avail funds worth 71.47 billion to enable implementation of additional 75 plus years in the financial year 2026-2027. Minister of Finance and Minister of Gender should subsequently provide funds for the implementation of SEG in age eligibility from 60 plus in the financial year 2027-2028 and financial year 2028-2029 respectively. That is a proposal made by the committee, but the House will take a stand over it. Appointment of industrial court judges, we have already talked about it. The committee has made a recommendation. Special enterprise program, I've already mentioned about it. The national rollout of the empowering the informal business into formal growth. That is the Judiciary program, and the amount required was to roll out to the whole country. Only 3.3 billion has been provided. We have made a recommendation that the Minister of Finance provides additional 15 billion to enable national rollout of empowering informal business into formal growth, the Judiciary program. The Minister of Finance should provide the balance of the 20.6 billion in the financial year 2027-2028. Right Honorable Speaker, I've already mentioned about the Medical Arbitration Board, and the committee recommends that money be additional money, 5 billion, 6 billion be provided. There is also the Labor Advisory Board. The committee has recommended additional money, 5 billion be provided to enable the advisory board to effectively conduct its mandate. There is also the National Program on Operationalization of the Minimum Wages Advisory Board and Wages Councils. The Minimum Wage Advisory Board and Wages Council Act, CAP 229, provides for the establishment of minimum wage advisory boards and wage councils, and for the regulation of the remuneration and conditions of employment of employees. During the high-level meeting with leaders of trade unions and employers held on 30th April 2025, His Excellency the President accepted requests from workers and employers organization, the National Organization of Trade Unions and the Central Organization of Trade Unions of Free Trade Unions and the Federation of Ghana Employers, that among other things to be set up the tripartite minimum wage advisory board and the wage councils to undertake a comprehensive study of the economy and feasibility of fixing the minimum wage in Uganda. The committee was informed that on 1st May, during the commemoration of the International Labour Day at Nakapiripiri District, His Excellency the President directed the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development to take necessary steps to operationalize the tripartite statutory wage setting institutions. Section 3.1 of the Minimum Wage Advisory Board and Wage Councils Act Cap 229 empowers the Ministry to establish board for any occupation or group of occupations to conduct inquiries and make recommendations on minimum wage and related conditions of employment. Similarly, Section 7 provides for the establishment of wages councils, again by order of the Minister, for specific sectors and occupations where wages regulations is necessary. In line with the above, the minimum wage advisory boards and wages councils are being constituted and planned to start work on 1st July. The board has no provision and it requires UGX 14.5 billion in the financial year 2026-2027 budget. Failure to allocate the necessary funding will not only impede the implementation of the presidential directive to establish the functional framework for the wage determination, but also render minimum wage advisory board and wage council non-operation. The committee makes recommendations that Minister of Finance should provide shillings 14.5 billion for the operationalization of minimum wage advisory board and wages council. The green jobs, we are making recommendation that we provide 14.9 billion for the green jobs and a just transition. Right Honorable Speaker, I now proceed to vote 124, the UOC. The details on page 33, 34. Members can read through.
Apollo, can you summarize and go to appropriation?
I'm now on the EOC. I'm on EOC. Table 13 is showing the budget estimates of EOC and the total amount excluding arrears for this financial year is going to be 24.484439 billion, and there is a variation of 1.1 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, I can now go to the supply table, which is on page 43. Recurrent and development estimates for the financial year 2026-2027. The development component, the total recurrent is 322,450,274 billion. The total overall, the total development overall, the total development is 205,974,467 billion. And the total, overall total is 500. What is captured here is what we captured from the, what was submitted, but has since changed. We shall harmonize with the budget committee because this is what is in the appropriation bill, but it has since changed. The totals are different. I have put down the explanatory notes. And for the vote 124 equal opportunities, total recurrent is 21,361,467 billion. And the total development is 790 million. Overall total is 22. Here it reads 22 because that is what is in the appropriation bill. And I've made observation. The committee observed that appropriation bill 2026 has lower budgetary allocation compared to what is in the draft annual budget estimates for both the Ministry of Gender and Social Development and the Equal Opportunities Commission. Specifically, the allocation of Ministry of Gender has a reduction of 4,191,692,940 billion, with the bill providing UGX 528,424,741,00 billion, against the draft annual budget estimates of 532,616,434,00 billion. Similarly, the allocation to the EOC is lower by 2.332,972,380 billion, with the appropriation bill providing 22,151,467,000 billion compared to what is in the draft annual budget estimate. These discrepancies indicate a downward adjustment in funding at appropriation stage relative to what is initially proposed in the draft annual budget. We shall harmonize with the Finance Committee. The Budget Committee. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, I beg to move that the MPS and the draft budget estimates for vote 018 and vote 127 for Equal Opportunities Commission and the recommendation contained in the report be adopted. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable members, you've had a report from Chairperson. Thank you. You've had a report from the Chairperson. And government, there was an issue of that was raised by Honorable Sewungu. He was here. There was an issue of the money paid to the elderly, where the elderly are expected to go and sign themselves, and some elderly are actually opting out to go for a long distance for that money, and but in some areas they allow a representative to go with your identification and all that kind of thing. In my area they allow. Honorable Minister, Government of
Madam Speaker, the biggest issue with SAGE all over the country has been the question of age. Because as leaders, elders have always insisted that the age limit of 80 is on the higher side. And government already is progressing on reducing the age limit to 65. Now, on the question of the distance, that may need to be discussed by government. because this is the first time that a sitting government takes a decision to at least give a token to the elders. And Honorable Sewungu, you also know when we were growing up, how we really used to move. But that also talks about the mindset of our community. If there is an elder in a community, and it is time for that elder to go and pick his or her money, don't we really have people who can volunteer to take this elder? What about the banking system? A district like Aleptong does not have a single bank. If this money was to be picked from a bank, it would require that elder to travel from Aleptong up to Lira, where majority of the banks are. So I believe that government may not be in a position to do all things, to decentralize it to the village, to decentralize it to the parish. For now, let's allow government to work on the reduction of the age limit such that more elders can be enrolled into this program.
Yes. Honourable Minister,
Yes.
thank you for your submission. Madam Speaker, why don't we adopt a system the way Kenya is doing it? These elders, some of them have telephone numbers. Even if government procures for them cheap, small telephones, so that this money goes on their mobile
How many
numbers.
elders are we talking about?
Madam Speaker, it is very possible because government will still be earning from them. When you send money to this elder through mobile money, still government taxes this money by getting 1,000 from withdraw. And that's what is done in Kenya. So it is the simplest method of solving all these challenges. Because this elderly person is near a mobile booth somewhere. He takes his phone and he says, I want to withdraw my money. As he withdraws and as you send the money, government gets taxes. And that's what Kenya is doing. It solves all problems and will reduce even on corruption within the system of SAGE.
Honourable members, that is food for thought. We should be able to plan on how best our elders should get their money. And as a committee of gender, the committee should actually plan and discuss and advise government on how best this money can be got with ease. Yes, John?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, government has taken a step towards managing finances at parish level, as evidenced by PDM. One of the proposals we can make is that we can start looking at these elderly people at parish level and then use the parish office to reach out to them with ease for avoidance of movement. Because someone moving from Buyende, where there is no bank, has to come to Kamuli, and it's a very long distance. So I want to appreciate the fact that we have now taken a step towards parish development model. The same approach can be used to take care of these elderly people using the parish office. I thank you.
Actually, yesterday when we had a debate here, we were also complaining about PDM. We say the parish officers are not doing a good job. They are removing you in Chankwansi. When Honorable Namire said that they would deduct the money, is it 500 or whichever, and give the other the balance. There's still a problem with the use of the parish chiefs. I think we need to have extensive discussion on how this can be done so that we come up with a viable solution. But meanwhile, Buyende needs a bank. Yes, Faith.
Right Honourable Speaker, it is heartening to hear from the chairperson that there are judges deployed in the industrial courts but cannot do work. And yet we know that this category are well paid. So it is not cost effective to have judges who cannot do work when we have a lot of cases in other courts.
That's very true.
Or how about we recommend that those judges are deployed to support the other courts so that the value in them can be utilized. The country can benefit better.
The industrial court judges are recruited specifically because even in industrial court, We need these judges, Honorable Faith. We need them. But what we need to do as Parliament, as government, is to ensure that we give the ministry money for administrative costs, operational costs. That is something very small that should be done. Yes, Olympian.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would like to thank the chair. And also, second, I would like to thank the government, Right Honorable Speaker.
I'm going to give 20 minutes per report.
Yeah.
This one we have spent almost 2 hours.
Right Honorable Speaker and the members, I think there are things that we have to appreciate this government. This government came from a long way. When you look at there's so many programs that we have to run, you look at now we are talking about the SAGE, and then we have a program for youth, we have a program for government. I would emphasize that we should look at the number of the age that people should achieve this goal. If we talk about the age, we have been collecting so many data where you can find 80 years old, 70 years old. I would request if we would come really together at the age of 60 to make sure all these people are paid. And the issue of paying them to their nearest village is kind of difficult. Because you look at in the northern Uganda now, we are talking about restocking. In the eastern, we are talking about restocking. So things are very, if we complicate a lot of things, in our country, we are really not very successful right now. We are having challenges in finance since the funds were cut from the Western world in this epidemic, and also when you look at the issue of gay. So our country, we are really struggling. So I would really ask Right Honorable Speaker that we should focus at the age of 65. If all these people the data should be collected and they really get what we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I request that you discuss in the next report? Honourable members, pursuant to Rule 156(2), the report is forwarded to the Committee of Budget for harmonization, consolidation, and reconciliation. Thank you so much. But Honourable Minister, you need to take note of the issues that are being raised, such that when you go to Cabinet, you must be able to discuss these issues. There is a pardon? Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, I just would wish to clarify on one. For the last 2 years under PDM, government has been paying an additional 100,000 shillings to all the parish chiefs in Uganda. And this is meant to enhance whatever they have been receiving, to enable them to move and to enable them to connect, specifically under PDM. So no parish chief in Uganda is supposed to charge any beneficiary of PDM. That is the information I would want to give. Because for the last 2 years, there is an additional 100,000 shillings given to all parish chiefs to enable them move and connect with specific reference to PDM.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, we agree with the principle, but we must know the reality as well. That's what the Speaker was telling us. We all have to fight the vice. Otherwise, the fact is there, but how do you fight as government that vice that is causing people to be charged some 500, as the Speaker stated? So let us all come around to fight that vice that is causing those who are applying for this money to be cheated by paying. Otherwise, the challenge is there.
Honourable members, we have a challenge in PDM. But as leaders, we should be able to make sure that we correct that. Next.
The Sectoral Committee on Physical Infrastructure.
We'll look at the challenges, recommendations, and appropriation.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to present the report of the Committee of Physical Infrastructure on the budget estimates and ministerial policy statement for the Integrated Transport Infrastructure and Services Program for the financial year 2026-27. Right Honorable Speaker, before
Yes, procedure.
Right Honorable Speaker, I endured looking at that screen previously, yet I have an iPad here for the reports. Whoever is in charge of uploading those reports, Madam Speaker, could help us and do it swiftly.
Clerk, have you heard?
So that we can follow on our iPads. It's not.
I am told it is uploaded. Is you have it, Basil? Honorable Shabi, can you go and seek for assistance from Mighty? You know, these things are not easy to use.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, you will need to guide. When I left the FDC, by the way, you were also in FDC, and joined PFF, I came here and I was advised that those changes will begin with the next parliament. I see the Honorable Nsibambi, who is here, by the way, still as FDC, putting on a yellow tie, but he has also even left and joined the NRM. Yet your guidance was that the changes are only for purposes of election, so remain your party until. So that's a procedure issue I am raising for you, Madam Speaker, to guide. When Honorable Nsibambi, the right time we will go to sit on the other side.
Honorable Kira Semujo, Honorable Semujo, Honorable Nsibambi officially crossed to NRM. I know you'd have also loved to be on this side, but there's still room. We still have a lot of room. And you see the space is too much. If you're ready, Government Chief Whip, you just avail him with space. But otherwise, legally, it has no problem. Legally, it has no problem. You can cross within the 1 year. We only left with 1 month. We are left with 1 month to go.
Madam Speaker, I am fearing that this parliament will have 2 rulings on the same matter. Because I came here and said I have left FDC, I am now PFF. The Attorney General and the Chair said it is only for purposes of election. You therefore cannot change affiliation until the term has ended. But Madam Speaker, since it is your guidance, I will take it. Thank you very much.
And there is no problem for Honorable Nsibambi putting on yellow. Yellow is a color. The color of the Ugandan flag, that is number 1. Number 2, I have always said free sitting. It is you. It is you who has failed to come and sit on this side. And yet when you sit on this side, you see better. Or you can be seen better. So Those are smaller things. And you see, it's even more healthy now. Congratulations, Honorable Sibambi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to present the report of the Committee on Physical Infrastructure on the budget estimates and ministerial policy statement for the Integrated Transport Infrastructure and Services Program for the financial year 2026-27. Right Honorable Speaker, before I present, allow me lay on table a copy of the report and the minutes that process the report. Right Honorable Speaker, because of time constraint, allow me also give an executive summary of the report. We have the maritime and inland water transport, 7.0 billion for maritime infrastructure and safety improvements. The ferry services, Right Honorable Speaker, 23.2 billion for expansion and maintenance of ferry services across water bodies. Right Honorable Speaker, the program prioritizes continued rehabilitation of damaged roads, strengthening railway infrastructure, expansion of air transport services, including developments at Entebbe and Kabalega International Airports, and improvement of inland water transport systems. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee observations and recommendations. 1. Outstanding arrears to contractors. Accumulation of arrears has remained a structural challenge within Uganda's road sector. The absorption of former UNRA and URF into Ministry of Works has further consolidated the arrears liability across previously separate institutional structures, creating a single and growing pool of outstanding debt. The committee was informed that the Ministry of Works closed financial year 2024-25 with total arrears of 1.4 trillion, comprising Uganda shillings 649 billion from the Ministry of Works, 840 billion inherited from former UNRA, and 0.5 billion from the former Uganda Road Fund. Although Uganda shillings 541 billion has been paid so far in the financial year 2025-26 through supplementary expenditure, The outstanding balance as at the time of the ministerial policy statement submission stands at approximately 948 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes with concern that out of an approved arrears budget of 218.4 billion for financial year 25-26, no resources were released by half year. This complete non-release directly caused the suspension of works on a number of national road projects and triggered additional interest charges. The committee further notes that instead of restoring the arrears allocation, the proposed financial year 26-27 budget slashes it from Uganda shillings 218.4 billion to only Uganda shillings 39.6 billion, a reduction of 81.9%, despite this outstanding stock having grown. This is compounded by the absence of any fixed medium-term clearance schedule. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends and urges government to restore the financial year 2026-27 arrears allocation to a minimum of Uganda shillings 300 billion and commit to a legally binding 3-year clearance schedule published to Parliament by end of Q1 financial year 26-27. Ensure that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development releases both the arrears budget of 218 billion for financial year 25-26 and the remaining balance of the approved supplementary budget of 1.69 trillion. And 3, choose approving arrears budget lines that are never released, as this creates a false impression of fiscal responsibility while contractors remain unpaid, works remain suspended, and interest accrues. Right Honorable Speaker, the persistent delays in land acquisition and project affected person compensation. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee was informed that as at the time of the MPS submission, a total of 7,767 PAPs, that's 41%, remain unpaid under the government-funded projects Bukasa Port, the Standard Gauge Railway, Tororo Gulu Meter Gauge Railway, and Gulu Logistics Hub, representing outstanding compensation of Uganda shillings 533.2 billion. Under donor-funded projects, Right Honorable Speaker, 6,507 PAPs, that's 18%, remain unpaid, Uganda shillings 320.1 billion. Land acquisition across 32 ongoing civil works contracts has hectares, a coverage rate of 29.4%. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes a significant positive development where the land acquisition project 2, project 1771, has received a significant budget increase from Uganda shillings 113.1 billion to Uganda shillings 689.5 billion. This signals a belated recognition that land acquisition has been the principal bottleneck to infrastructure. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee cautions that a budget appropriation alone is insufficient. Project by project PAP clearance schedule with quarterly targets ring-fence the Uganda shilling 689.5 billion 26-27 and establish independent verification of disbursements to actual PAPs. 2, treat counterpart funding for land acquisition as a statutory first call on program resources, in line with the second BCC directive, ensuring it is released before any other discretionary expenditure in the first quarter. Right Honorable Speaker, the low releases and absorption of external financing. In respect to this, Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes with grave concern that while 1,400 billion, that is 1.4 trillion, representing 34.4% of the external budget, was released to the vote, only 193.3 billion was actually spent, meaning 86.2% of released external funds remained unabsorbed as at half year. Expressed against the original approval budget, only 4.7% of 4.0 trillion external budget was spent by mid-year. This is not a funding shortage. It is a structural implementation failure rooted in the absence of counterpart resources for land acquisition and PAP compensation. making the large external budget envelope essentially inaccessible despite its formal approval. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee further notes that with the financial year 2026-27 external financing budget rising to Uganda shillings 4.3 trillion, a continuation of 13.8% absorption rate would imply only approximately 606 billion in actual expenditure, leaving Uganda shillings 3.7 trillion unspent and generating additional commitment charges. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends 1. Mandatory project readiness certification. The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in coordination with the Ministry of Works and the National Planning Authority, should institute a mandatory project readiness certification process for all externally financed projects before inclusion in the annual budget. No externally financed project should receive budget allocation unless it has a completed feasibility study, B, approved detailed engineering designs, C, completed environmental social impact assessment, D, confirmed land right-of-way availability of at least 80%, and E, a signed and effective loan grant agreement. Projects that do not meet these criteria should be removed from the budget estimates and placed in a pipeline category until readiness is established. 2, Right Honorable Speaker, the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Works should negotiate and publish a synchronized annual disbursement calendar with each development partner financing projects under Vote 016. This calendar should align Government of Uganda counterpart releases with donor disbursement triggers, ensuring that Government of Uganda's quarterly cash budgeting framework does not create artificial delays in accessing externally financed resources. Right Honorable Speaker, the standard gauge railway, financing gaps and implementation risks. The standard gauge railway from Malaba to Kampala is Uganda's single most capital-intensive infrastructure investment and a cornerstone of the NDP4 tenfold growth strategy. As a key component of the East African Cooperation Railway Master Plan and the Northern Corridor Integrated Projects, the 272-kilometer Malaba-Kampala section, phase 1 of a planned 1,700-kilometer network will link Uganda's capital to the port of Mombasa, reducing logistics costs, decongesting highways, and enabling the oil and gas sector. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes with concern the following. The Islamic Development Bank commitment of 410 million euros covers only 15% of the 2.7 billion euros project cost, with over 2.2 billion euros unconfirmed, creating material risks to the November 2026 financial closure deadline. B, 491.9 billion, that is 60% in the project affected person compensation, remains unpaid, with 5,028 PAPs uncompensated, predominantly in the dense urban Buikwe, Mukono, Wakiso, Kampala corridor, directly threatening right-of-way, clearance, and lender conditionalities. C, only 47% of acquired land has been formally titled, exposing untitled parcels to legal encumbrance risks. D, there is no publicly disclosed revenue model or debt service schedule to demonstrate standard gauge railways' fiscal viability against its 2.7 billion euros debt obligation. And E, Uganda already lost 8 years from 2015 to 2023. Between 2015 and January 2023, the government of Uganda maintained a contractual arrangement with China Harbour Engineering Company for the construction of the Malaba-Kampala section. However, the contract was terminated in January 2023 after 8 consecutive years of failure to execute, during which financing negotiations with Chinese lenders stalled due to the connectivity concerns with Kenya's standard gauge railway. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends that government present to Parliament by end of Q1 financial year 26-27 a comprehensive standard gauge railway financing plan with confirmed lender commitments, co-financing structure for the remaining 2.2 euros billion, and a contingency strategy if November 2026 financial closure is not achieved. Fast-track release of the outstanding Uganda shillings for 491 billion, PAP compensation with priority ring fencing for the Buikwe, Mukono, Wakiso, Kampala corridor, and operationalize an independent grievance redress mechanism for contested valuations with clear timelines. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee also recommends that government directs the Uganda Land Commission to complete titling and transfer all 2001 acquired standard gauge railway access within 6 months. Also, government to table a dedicated debt sustainability analysis for the standard gauge railway before financial closure, incorporating revenue projections, freight tariff structures, and debt service schedules. Submit quarterly standard gauge railway progress reports to the Physical Infrastructure Committee from April 2026 until financial closure and full construction commencement, covering financing, land acquisition, limited notice to proceed works, local content compliance, and Uganda-Kenya coordination. Right Honorable Speaker, the government debtors to Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. The total trade debtors receivables, these funds related to unpaid for services, security, navigation services, and rent. The accumulation of long outstanding government debtors constrains Uganda Civil Aviation Authority's cash flow and exposes the authority to a heightened risk of revenue loss and impaired service delivery. The committee was informed that delayed payment of these debts has constrained the timely expansion, harmonization, and replacement of safety capital investments at Entebbe International Airport. I invite the members to look through the table of debtors as at 31st March 2026. In respect to that, Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, Ministry of Works, liaise with Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to come up with a repayment schedule from the aforementioned MDAs, where deductions can be carried out at source quarterly. Further, the affected MDAs are also urged to incorporate within their budget specified funds in order to enable them clear arrears accrued towards UCAA. The committee was informed that in regards to funds owed by the UN to the Uganda Civil Aviation, there is an MOU that states that the UN will operate at Entebbe International Airport at no cost, and that UCAA will be compensated for the foregone income. The committee therefore recommends, Right Honorable Speaker, that the Ministry of Works liaises with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Office of the Prime Minister to have the matter resolved and report back to Parliament in the medium term. Right Honorable Speaker, the relocation of Nagrik from the airport. The committee was informed by the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority that it acquired 67.4 acres of land formerly owned by Mahiv Nagrik to facilitate expansion of Entebbe International Airport. In order to facilitate the acquisition, Uganda Civil Aviation Authority paid 2.4 billion on 20th August 2019 to Mahif, which would enable them to relocate to land measuring 76.5 acres in Chanuma village, Busiro. Right Honorable Speaker, in respect to that, the committee noted that this issue was raised in the committee report of the financial year 25-26, urging Maif and Nagrik to relocate and pave way for the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, given that funds were received in lieu of the land by Nagrik, but the status quo remains the same. The committee recommendations, Right Honorable Speaker. The committee recommends and urges the Ministers for Works and Transport and Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, in consultation with the Office of the Prime Minister, to come up with an amicable solution to the land under dispute and report back to Parliament in the medium term. Right Honorable Speaker, ferries and inland water transport safety. Ferry services in Uganda are primarily managed by Uganda National Roads Department in the Ministry of Works and Transport and private operators. They are critical infrastructure in connecting rural communities and bridging road networks across Lake Victoria, Choga, Albert, and the Nile. These services significantly reduce travel times for people and cargo by serving key areas like Kalangala, Buvuma, and the Buyende-Kaberamaido route. The committee noted that inland water transport has been neglected over time, with concerns about limited connectivity, ferry breakdowns, and makeshift boat use, persisting with up to 5,000 deaths occurring annually on Lake Victoria alone due to boat accidents. Right Honorable Speaker, in respect to that, the committee takes into cognizance the ministry's efforts towards construction of the SAR centers, that is the search and rescue centers, and recommends that SAR centers be evenly distributed, constructed across all major water bodies. And further, island communities should be regularly sensitized on safe water transport usage, given that host accidents are due to human error, like overloading, and most boats being in poor mechanical conditions. Further emphasis should be placed on regular vessel inspections in order to ensure compliance with set standards. Right Honorable Speaker, operationalization of the meter gauge project. The committee noted that the Uganda Railways, the URC, is in process of rehabilitating, upgrading the aging MGR network, including Malaba, Kampala, Toro, Gulu, and expand the commuter passenger services in the greater Kampala metropolitan area under their strategic plan financial year 25-26. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee noted that in financial year 2026-27, government has allocated Uganda shillings 161 billion to the URC towards full operationalization of Tororo Gulu line, including rehabilitation of 600 wagons, rehabilitation of locomotives, and wage support. The committee recommends that the URC prioritizes full operationalization of the meter gauge railway, as this will go a long way in alleviating congestion of both cargo and passenger services on the already struggling road network. Right Honorable Speaker, road fund management. The committee noted that while Road Fund Management Department, formerly the Uganda Road Fund, is mandated to finance routine and periodic maintenance of public roads in Uganda, it is grossly underfunded. The fund is supposed to raise monies independent of general government taxation regimes and disperse those funds to repair and maintain agencies based on agreed work plan. Right Honorable Speaker, the agencies that repair and maintain Uganda roads and therefore benefit from the monies accrued by the Road Fund Management include Kampala Capital City Authority and other designated agencies responsible for maintenance and repair of district, urban, and community access roads. The committee recommends and urges government to fully operationalize the road fund in order to enable it operate with the resources drawn from the second generation fund as resolved by Parliament. 2, further, the committee recommends that road and drainage maintenance under Uganda Road Fund be allocated additional resources in order to enable it fully carry out its mandate. The committee also recommends that government comes up with a program specifically geared towards sensitizing the populace on proper garbage disposal and enforcement of attendant penalties. This may help curb the poor culture towards garbage disposal. Vote 122 KCCA. Right Honorable Speaker, the reduction in infrastructure budget allocation under Kampala Capital City Authority. The infrastructure budget for Kampala Capital City is on a downward trajectory at a time when the city's road network and drainage systems require expanded investment. The reduction in the KCCA's budget under the IT's program undermines KCCA's capacity to address the growing urban mobility and infrastructure maintenance challenges confronting the capital city. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee was informed that KCCA's total allocation under the Integrated Transport Infrastructure and Services Program has decreased from 621.8 billion in the financial year 25-26 to Uganda shillings 529.7 billion in the financial year 2026-27, a reduction of Uganda shillings 92.1 billion, that is 14.8%. The committee notes that this reduction is principally driven by the removal of Uganda shillings 140 billion allocated for commencement of the Kampala City Roads and Bridges upgrading project, funded by the UK Export Finance in the second budget called Circular. In respect to that, Right Honorable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends that reinstatement of the Uganda shillings 140 billion allocated for the KCRBUP in financial year 2026-27 to enable timely project commencement, given that the UK Export Finance Facility is already secured, and further delay risk lapsing of the credit arrangement. Right Honourable Speaker, critically low absorption of external financing under KCCA's infrastructure budget. External financing constitutes the single largest component of KCCA's infrastructure budget, and its effective absorption is the primary determinant of whether the capital city's strategic road rehabilitation and urban development programs deliver tangible results. Right Honourable Speaker, the half-year performance data reveals a deeply concerning pattern of under-absorption that, if sustained, renders the expanded external financing envelope largely illusionary. The committee was informed that as at the end of Q2, financial year 25-26, the overall absorption rate under KCCA stood at only 46.1%, with Uganda shillings 138.7 billion spent out of the Uganda shillings 300.4 billion released. External financed projects recorded particularly weak performance. The KCRRP spent only 65.4 billion of Uganda shillings 199.0 billion, while the Greater Kampala Metropolitan spent only Uganda shillings 7.3 billion of the Uganda shillings 32.5 billion released. The committee notes that although KCCA reports improved performance by March 26, with overall vote absorption rising to 73.5%, external financing improving from 32.86 to 56.5%. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee in respect to that recommends and urges government to ensure that all prerequisite activities, including utility relocations, right-of-way acquisition and donor approval processes, are completed before the start of financial year 26-27, so that construction can proceed unimpeded from Q1. 2, the committee recommends and urges government to engage development partners, the African Development Bank and the World Bank, proactively to streamline the no-objection approval processes and reduce approval turnaround times. Right Honourable Speaker, the persistent implementation delays under the Kampala City Roads Rehabilitation Project, the KCRRP, valued at US dollars 288 million. That's about 1.0 trillion, and funded by the African Development Bank, the Global Environmental Fund, and the government of Uganda, is the single largest infrastructure investment in Kampala's road network. Its timely completion is critical, Right Honourable Speaker, enhancing transport efficiency and expanding the stock of paved roads in the capital city. However, the project has experienced significant implementation delays across multiple lots. I would invite the honourable colleagues to go through Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3, Lot 4, and Lot 5. The committee therefore observes, Right Honourable Speaker, that the KCRRP commenced in financial year 2021-22 and has been under implementation for over 4 years. Yet overall progress remains below 2/3. Lots 2, 3, and 4, which together accounts for 61.6 kilometers, that is 66% of the total KCRRP scope, are all significantly behind schedule. Of particular concern is the 0 kilometer of paved road has been delivered under Lot 2, despite over 50% physical progress, suggesting that completed works are concentrated in sub-base and drainage activities with no finished road surface yet handed over. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends and urges government to, 1, direct KCCA to present a revised lot-by-lot completion schedule with realistic milestones, including monthly paved kilometer targets, to the committee by the end of Q1 financial year 26-27. Also to ensure that the financial year 26-27 KCRRP allocation of Uganda shillings 122.3 billion is released in full and on time to prevent further construction stoppages. And investigate and report to the committee on the specific factors causing delayed progress on Kasubi, Northern Bypass Road, Queensway, and Zambia Road, Hanlon Road junction with remedial action timelines. Right Honorable Speaker, the slow progress under the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Urban Development Program. The Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area Under Development Program, valued at US $606 million and funded by the World Bank and the French Development Agency under a program for results financing modality, is the most significant urban development intervention in Kampala. Right Honorable Speaker, in the interest of time, the committee recommends and urges government to, 1, direct KCCA to present a revised realistic completion schedule for the 5 GKMA UDP road lots with interim milestones and clear accountability mechanisms for each contractor. And also to expedite right-of-way acquisition, particularly for Katalemwa Road and Muganzilwaza Road, through accelerated stakeholder engagement and, where necessary, formal land acquisition process, and ensure that the financial year 26-27 GKMA UDP allocation of Uganda shillings 196.9 billion is fully utilized, and that KCCA meets the minimum conditions and performance benchmarks required to access metropolitan development grants under the Program for Results Framework. 14, Right Honorable Speaker, the chronic underfunding of road and drainage maintenance under the KCCA. Under that, Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommended and urged government to, 1, increase the Uganda Road Fund allocation to KCCA to a minimum of Uganda shillings 55 billion in financial year 26-27, in line with the stated maintenance requirements, and index future allocations to the road network length and conditions data. 2, ring-fence the road fund allocation strictly for maintenance activities and ensure that it's released in Q1 to allow timely procurement of materials and commencement of maintenance works. And lastly, the committee in that respect recommended that KCCA provide a comprehensive road condition survey of all 2,104 kilometers of the Kampala road network with a costed multi-year maintenance plan to Parliament December 2026. Right Honorable Speaker, the critical drainage infrastructure deficit and flood risk. Under this, Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommended and urged government to appropriate a dedicated drainage improvement allocation of at least 50 billion in the financial year 26-27 for immediate construction of the already designed 18.9 kilometer of community drainage channels and the most critical box culverts. To fast track the completion of the Lubiji drainage channel, 980 meter remaining, as a priority flood mitigation intervention, and develop and present to Parliament a comprehensive Kampala drainage master plan with a costed 5-year phase investment program by December 2026. Right Honorable Speaker, the non-release of areas and budget under the KCCA. In that respect, the committee recommends and urges government to, 1, appropriate and release a minimum of Uganda shillings 39.5 billion for areas clearance in financial year 26-27, and choose the practice of budgeting for areas without any intention of release, as this distorts the fiscal position. Right Honorable Speaker, grossly inadequate street lighting and infrastructure. In this respect, the committee recommends and urges government to increase the street lighting allocation progressively, targeting full coverage of all arterial and collector roads within 3 financial years. And then enforce penalties for vandalism of public infrastructure, including street lights, to deter destruction of government property, and explore solar-powered and vandal-resistant lighting technologies to reduce both operational costs and the impact of vandalism. Right Honorable Speaker, vote 609, road maintenance grant, operationalization challenges under the local government. Right Honorable Speaker, currently government allocates a uniform road maintenance grant of 1 billion to each of the 176 local governments. That is 135 districts, 10 cities, and 31 municipal councils, amounting to 176 billion in financial year 24-25 to support maintenance of the Duka road network. However, audit and field evidence shows that the design and operationalization of this grant have not translated in timely, efficient, and quality road maintenance at local level. In respect to that, Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends the following. Ministry of Works and Finance should revise the road maintenance development grant guidelines to make preparation and annual updating of road inventories and condition surveys as precondition for work plan and funding approval, with targeted technical support to the 5 local governments with no inventories and the 22 with incomplete databases. Ministry of Finance should strengthen performance-based aspects of the grant by linking allocations to agreed indicators, timely completion rates, percentage of net work in fair or good condition, quality audit scores, while maintaining a minimum flow to avoid penalizing the poorest local governments. And the government should also enforce strict timelines for procurement and implementation of works financed by the grant, with non-performing local governments subjected to corrective action plans and closer technical supervision. Right Honorable Speaker, inadequate road equipment in local government. According to the most recent auditor OAG report, a review of road equipment in 148 sampled local governments revealed severe deficits in the availability and functionality of road machinery required to execute maintenance works and financed through the grant. 19 local governments had no road equipment units at all. 137 had inadequate equipment such as the motor graders, excavators and bulldozers, and 119 local governments had non-functional machinery. As a result, most local governments experienced significant delays in implementing maintenance works and in many ways were compelled to resort to expensive hiring of private equipment. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends the following. The Ministry of Works, in collaboration with Finance, should fast-track the procurement and delivery of complete road equipment units, the motor grader, the wheel loader, the vibro roller, water bowsers, and 2 dump trucks to all local governments that lack them, prioritizing the 19 local governments with no equipment and the 14 new districts with incomplete units, with a full package funded and delivered within a clearly defined timeline. Right Honorable Speaker, government should increase mechanical interest allocations to local governments to enable regular servicing, preventive maintenance, and timely minor repairs of road equipment, reducing downtime and extending asset life. The Ministry of Works should review and amend the current policy on centralized repairs during the warranty period of authorizing local governments to undertake minor and routine repairs through certified local workshops under clear guidelines and accountability arrangements. The Ministry of Works should implement a structured capacity building program to train at least 3 mechanical technicians and 2 plant operators per local government, alongside equipping selected regional mechanical workshops to serve cluster of local governments. The Ministry of Works and Transport, the Inspectorate of Government, and the Uganda Police Force should institute strict monitoring and accountability mechanisms for road equipment, including mandatory GPS tracking on all machinery, annual physical verification and condition audits, and deterrent sanctions, including recovery of funds and disciplinary actions for illegal hiring out or misuse. Right Honorable Speaker, the uniform allocation of road maintenance grant. Under the current arrangement, Right Honorable Speaker, every local government may receive allocations that exceed their needs-based formula. Right Honorable Speaker, in respect to that, the committee recommends the following. Government should replace the uniform Uganda shillings 1 billion allocations with a transparent, formula-based road maintenance development grant that incorporates at least the following parameters: length of the Duka network, network condition, share, poor, stroke, fair, or good, road hierarchy and traffic volumes, terrain and climatic factors, and historical absorption stroke performance. A minimum base of Uganda shillings allocation should be maintained for all local governments to ensure basic functionality. But incremental resources above this floor should be distributed based on objective needs and performance indicators, ensuring that not all local governments receive the same amount. Ministry of Works should ensure that complete and regularly updated road inventories and condition surveys form the backbone of the allocation formula, and that local governments which fail to submit credible data within agreed timelines receive only the base allocation until compliance is achieved. The Ministry of Finance should consider gradually increasing the overall envelope for the Road Maintenance Development Grant while applying the new formula, so that better performing and higher needs local governments receive proportionately more resources. The revised criteria and formula should be approved by Cabinet and communicated publicly, and the Minister of Works should publish the annual allocation tables and performance reports to strengthen transparency, parliamentary oversight, and local accountability. In conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the committee adequately considered the ministerial policy statement of the Integrated Transport Infrastructure Services Program and recommends that the report of the Committee of Physical Infrastructure on the budget estimates for the financial year 26-27 be adopted. I beg to submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, thank you. What are the allocations that have been given to you? The total allocations?
Right Honorable Speaker, the total allocation to the Ministry of Works and Transport for the financial year 26-27 is 8,074.8 billion.
8 trillion.
It is 8 trillion. It is 8 trillion.
You know why I'm asking how much has been allocated? Because even after that allocation, we don't find the roads being worked on. What did you say about Kampala Jinja Express Highway? As you look for that, yes. We need to synchronize the issue of the regional mechanical workshops. You find a district like Bundibujo, the regional workshop is in Fort Portal, that far, very, very far. Mbarara, it is in Mbarara, not even Fort Portal, it is in Mbarara. You find all the way from Soroti, it is in Bugembe. We are wondering what happened to because UNRA used to be very, very organized. They had regional offices. What happened to those offices? And what happened to the equipment that UNRA had? Where are the labs, the regional labs? Before we start talking about the roads and whatever, how do we test the materials? Where are those labs? Where are the regional mechanical workshops? And then what happened to the UNRA roads? Honorable Chair, you may need to enlighten us on that. Because we are giving you a lot of money. Now, the fact that you have a lot of money, tell us which roads you will have to give us when we are doing appropriation, at which roads are we working on. I told you the road of Buheshu. You cannot even think of passing there. The road from Lira, Otuke, Abim, up to Karenga. Very, very bad road. You look at Kachonga, Butaleja, Tororo, Namutumba, terrible. Look at where Honorable Joan comes from, Madio Kolo, that road of Madiokor connecting to Arua. I can tell you all the roads now. Let's look at the critical roads. Let's make sure that we use the money effectively. With all this money that is being given, we must achieve what we need to achieve. You find the roads in Kampala here, like my road, somebody is working on a Macedon road there. I have failed even to pass there for a whole 2 weeks. Nothing is moving. But I was even wondering, why did they remove my little collars which was there? They should have left it the way it was. So, Chairman, there's a big problem in your sector. A very, very big problem.
Right, Honorable Speaker, in respect to the regional mechanical workshops, we had an extensive discussion on the subject matter with Ministry of Works, that currently the regional mechanical workshops does not offer efficient services to the rest of the regions. For example, we find that Karamoja sub-region would expect to travel all the way to Gulu mechanical workshop. West Nile will have to travel all the way to Gulu. And then Oima, Fort Portal will have to travel all the way to Mbarara. So we did recommend the creation of sub-regional mechanical workshops, born out of the stations that were formerly manned by UNRWA.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because what I've seen with the UNRWA, they have only changed the logo, and yet those people used to have very good workshops. UNRWA had a very good workshop. What about where districts like in Tongamo, Isingiro, or Kasese that are too big, or Yam, in terms of equipment? The President promised that they would give them additional equipment and additional 1 billion shillings for road maintenance.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the discrepancies in the allocation of the road equipments indeed was observed by the committee. Like you rightly noted, Rwenzori sub-region comes with attendant challenges of climate change issues, the terrain. We did bring it to the attention
Chairman,
of the
you have
Minister.
not understood what I'm saying. During the campaign, the President said districts that are too big, a district like Isingiro, a district like Kasese, a district like Oyam, a district like Yumbe, a district like there are about 6 districts. He said they were going to give them additional equipment. That is number 1. 2, he also said they were going to give them additional 1 billion shillings for road maintenance. And when we had a meeting, a top political meeting on the budget, the President even emphasized to PSST that this money must be provided. The equipment can be on a phased manner, but the money for road maintenance should start from this financial year.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we did ably mirror your concerns to the Minister and his team.
Can you go and make a follow-up with the PSST on that and report back to me?
Much obliged.
Because I was in that meeting.
Much obliged, Right, Honorable Speaker.
And those districts might get their money. Yes. Oyam.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we are discussing a very critical area in this country. And to my dismay, a lot of money has been given, but looking at the work on the ground, it's really missing. And I'm so surprised that we don't even have a single minister here to answer some of these queries that you are putting forward and the members are about to put forward. Right Honorable Speaker, are we moving on well to come and discuss such an important matter when the ministers are not here, not even a single one? Right Honorable Speaker.
You're talking about a single minister. What about that, Honorable Kafusi? Honorable...
Madam Speaker, from the sector, I'm meaning the sector of roads, infrastructure, and the like.
Honorable members, we are not going to fail to work because people have failed to come. Honorable Kafusi is holding vote and is taking note of everything, and we are going to make, Honorable Kafusi, as Parliament of Uganda, we are going to make a follow-up on this vote. We are not going to give the Minister of Works all this money and the roads are not worked on. How can you have such roads in the country? For heaven's sake. At the end of the day, they say government is not working, and yet we are the ones who are failing. Yes. Joanne.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I would like to thank the committee for the report. I have two issues. I would like to agree with them that the new districts that received only partial equipment be equipped with the equipment,
the balance.
the balance of the equipment. That's very important. I would like to thank the government for the 1 billion. You said there are some districts that are very large, and His Excellency had promised that they would receive an extra 1 billion. I hope that this is large in land size and not necessarily large in numbers, because when you look at a district like Madiokolo, to reach some sub-counties, Madiokolo is a land of many waters, and therefore there's a need for many bridges. To reach one of our sub-counties, you have to go through 4 other districts, a sub-county called Ewanga. There's been a bridge called Kia Bridge that was planned in 2021. It was in the NDP 3. The design was made, but somehow they stopped at the design. Now I'm hearing about bridges which are being designed, which are set to be constructed, designs are being planned. What about the design of Kia Bridge, which is already in place, but the bridge is not being put on the plan? So I would like to ask that the Ministry of Works considers that bridge in the plan.
Honorable, when you talk about the large districts, I want somebody from Isingiro, from Untungamo, to justify the size of Honorable.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. On that issue of big districts, when you look at Ntungamo, Isingiro, and Kasese, we consider both the size of the district and the population, which brings the economic activities, of course, increasing because people are many. When you look at Ntungamo and Isingiro, Kasese, and other districts whose population is high, you find that when you work on the road, within just 3 months, you need to go back. And then the terrain in Isingiro, Kasese, and Ntungamo, the districts are hidden. So you find that even bridges, working on a bridge is very expensive. So we've been finding it very difficult to manage our constituencies because we manage them as sub-districts. The money we get from here in allowances, we use it to work on our roads. And we even hire private graders from Mumbai. We have people who have private graders. One time I worked on 40 kilometers. Another time I worked on 60-something kilometers. Because my constituency alone has more than 100 kilometers of district roads. So that is the challenge, and I thank you, Madam Speaker, for encouraging us to make sure that we give those districts extra money first, and then equipment can come later, because we borrow from
Honorable members,
Thank
actually
you so much.
a constituency in Ntungamo is a size of my district, Bukedea. You understand? Why would Bukedea be given 1 billion shillings, and then a district like Ntungamo is also given 1 billion shillings? We should be looking at the size, the population. Yes, Ntungamo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I represent Rahama East.
Nothing personal, but I am looking at what is on ground. We are here to represent people. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I represent Rahama East constituency, which is part of the 5 constituencies which we have in Ntungamo district. Right Honorable Speaker, what you are saying is right. My constituency of Rahama East is the size of Tambara district. Butambara district receives 1 billion, and Ntungamo district, which has 5 constituencies, 5 times Butambara, receives 1 billion too. We have been complaining over this issue, and I remember in March last year, we met the president. The president even called the Minister of Finance over that issue to provide more money to the bigger districts. I was in that meeting in Ntungamo. He even put him on loud. We were all listening. I don't know why the Minister of Finance is not providing this money. And we have suffered. Some of us lost elections because of that issue, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for following up on this matter.
Kalaki has a road, Kabaramaid has a road that is impassable.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would have loved to hear the chair talk about Katine-Ochero Road, which this house passed. Cabinet passed. Yes, Madam Speaker.
You should first talk about at least having a single tarmac in your district, because you don't even have a single. I think out of all the districts, you don't have a single tarmac.
Madam Speaker, you are spot on. And so I would have expected this particular road, Katine-Ochero, has been riddled by corruption. Because last year, twice, that road was supposed to be awarded a contractor. And they said there was a whistleblower that came up, that was investigated. We never saw the report. Around December last year, same thing happened. Around March this year, same thing has happened. So I would have loved to hear what is that report, what are the dates for the contractor to be given the road. So, Madam Speaker, you are right on. Secondly, on the issue of ferries, we informed the process in the beginning that Kaberimaido has the largest number of people who would use that ferry to come to Busoga and to come into Kampala. And so the information available then suggested that the place where the workers should be staying would be in Kampala, a place called Kampala, where the ferry docks in Kaberimaido. But up to now, there is no housing there. Instead, the housing was placed in Buyende, where the ferry starts off from. Recently, the minister acknowledged and accepted that they would transfer, that they would construct new buildings on that side. I would have expected to see that in the budget for next year. As I speak, the minister has started to rent houses for workers to stay on the side of Kaberimaido, which is a better step, but it would be important would have loved to see in the budget figures showing that construction will take place on the other side to enhance the usage of the ferry. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I also want you to remember that there are loans that we approved as a house. The loans were approved for construction of particular roads. To date, the roads have not been constructed. They've not even started the works, and yet we are paying interest in those loans. Honorable Minister, how do we handle that? on the issue of the loans that we approved. The designs are not available. The works have not started. And yet we are paying interest on these loans.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I have listened attentively to the concerns of my colleagues. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I have listened attentively to the concerns of my colleagues. I would like time to consult and give a befitting answer, especially in reference to particular roads, okay? So that I can give a status report and tell you on this.
Yesterday I passed this road from Nakaseke to Ngoma. That road, I think, was given to, I don't know to which construction company, but the works are not moving. Go to Kampala Fort Portal Road, the works are not moving. To Hoima Road, nothing is moving. What could be happening? No, the releases were done. The releases were done.
Madam Speaker, I know that some money was paid out, some of the contractors. It may not have been fully paid, but some money was given to them, especially, I know, the Mitiana Road.
To Fort?
To Fort Portal, yes. But I need to find out, get a proper status report, and make a report to Parliament.
Honorable members, I have a suggestion that we refer this report to the committee, but in the next sitting, we need to open up the debate with the Minister of Works. We need to open up, Attorney General, we want a debate on issue of roads with the finance and works on Tuesday. You lay it on table.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg also to lay our observations as opposition within this very report so that it can also be incorporated.
So that,
and I pray that as they sit in that meeting, the issue of new districts not having Tamaka roads, with the new districts, however small we are. In Ikalungu, Madam Speaker, we only have a Tamaka road going to the sister's place and one church, and it was constructed by different people. No single Tamaka in Ikalungu district. And Ikasanda. So, you have not talked about that, but let me table this. You will see. Thank you very much.
It is unusual to discuss a report after it has gone to the budget committee, but these are matters that are very important. We must, even after this harmonization, we must have a debate on the issue of the roads, so that we are able to see who is the problem. Yes.
Madam Speaker, we had the Minister of Finance, of Works, the Honorable General Katumba Wamala here. He made a presentation listing all the roads that needed to be done. And if I recall, the money that we owed to contractors was more than 5 trillion. The report of the committee says only 2 point something has been put in the budget. But what we owe to contractors, and that's why they had abandoned the sites, was more than 5 trillion. So the procedural issue I am raising, Madam Speaker, is for you to guide whether part of the problem doesn't start in this parliament. Because Tamaka Road cannot just be given. There must be justification and a return on investment. If you read the reports of IMF and World Bank, the return on public investment in Uganda is 0.08. The world average is 6%. Because you can't come and throw a road at each and everybody, including those who are going to use it for grazing. 80% of the vehicles in Uganda are in
You
Kampala
mean grazing?
metropolitan.
You mean grazing is not an activity?
I am on procedure for you to rule.
There is an order.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Is it in order for Honorable Semuju, who knows very well that he's not the only one bringing economic activity in this Kampala? Us from the village, we also bring economic activity here, to stand here and say that we are from the village and we don't deserve to have tarmac roads. Is it in order?
Honorable members, there is no place that does not bring economic activity. There is no district that is not important. And that's why you have all these representatives here. We will not start belittling other districts. Like my district, I don't have tarmac, but I have economic activity there. I have all the investments in that district. But you cannot say that places without return on investment should not bring. What return on investment are you looking at? We are saying, as government should provide us with the roads, whether it is a tarmac or not a tarmac, but good roads. People are dying of accidents because of these roads. You cannot say that you only need roads in Kampala, in Kira, because you have economic activity. So what? You mean for us in the villages we should not have? Napak should not have? Pursuant to Rule 156(2) of the Rules of Procedure, I refer this report to the Committee of Budget for Harmonization, Reconciliation, and Consolidation. But we are going to have a debate on infrastructure and have it on the order paper of Tuesday. Thank you. Next.
The Sectoral Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs.
Honourable members, I want to request you that you look at the overall observations, recommendations, and budget allocation. Please, Chair.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I stand here to present the report of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee for the Ministerial Policy Statements under its scrutiny. Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the minutes and the duly signed report for the committee. I beg to lay.
Please lay. Thank you.
Honourable colleagues, Right Honourable Speaker, the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, in accordance with Article 155 of the Constitution and other antecedent laws, is mandated, among others, to examine the following ministerial policy statements and votes. The committee considered the ministerial statements for Vote 007, Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Vote 133, Directorate of Public Prosecutions, Vote 102, Electoral Commission, Vote 105, Uganda Law Reform Commission, Vote 104, Parliamentary Commission, Vote 101, the Judiciary, Vote 148, Judicial Service Commission, Vote 109, Law Development Center. Vote 106, Uganda Human Rights Commission. Vote 103, Inspectorate of Government. And vote 119, Uganda Registration Services Bureau. And also the Shadow Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, who made a report. In the interest of time, Right Honourable Speaker, the report is up. Yeah, this is vote 109. In the interest of time, Right Honourable Speaker, the report is uploaded. I'll just go straight to the recommendations and observations of the committee, which, for those who have had the access to the report, is on page 28. The committee made the following observations and recommendations under Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee was informed that the phase 1 of the construction of police headquarters and the parking deck of the Just Law and Order Sector House has reached practical completion and partial occupation commenced in March 2026. The ongoing and outstanding certified work under phase 1, ongoing work under phase 2 and completion of the parking deck cannot be funded within the 16.63 billion which was provided against the 50 billion which was required. To ensure timely completion of the entire project, the Ministry requires additional budget allocation of 34 billion in financial year 2026-2027. The committee recommends that additional 34 billion be provided for this financial year to enable the Ministry to complete construction of the JLOS house. Honourable colleagues, as you have noticed, many of the offices have already shifted to Naguru, where it's located. Under the motor vehicles, the committee was informed that the Ministry currently has a fleet of 86 vehicles, of which 68 are over 5 years and 37 have been in usage for over 10 years. Relatedly, the Auditor General has already raised a query over the use of old vehicles that should have been disposed of. The Ministry needs transport equipment of at least 48 motor vehicles over the next 2 financial years to support its operations of regional offices, court attendance, supporting the functions of administration of estates of the deceased persons, inspection of law chambers as its mandate. The committee recommends that an additional 7.2 billion be provided to the development budget of the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs for the coming financial year to procure 24 vehicles to improve dispensation of justice and access to justice in various areas. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee noted that state attorneys in the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs and the Directorate of Public Prosecutions do related work, but those from Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs are taxed, while those in DPP are not. We note that to remove this discrimination, there is need for tax waiver for state attorneys in the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs as well. So the committee makes this recommendation strongly. Construction and facilitation of regional offices. The committee was informed that the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs continues to face challenges in delivering effective services due to inadequate infrastructure and limited tools and equipment, with only 7 regional offices serving an average of 25 districts each. Workloads and case backlogs remain high, and access to justice, especially for vulnerable groups such as orphans and widows, is constrained by long travel distances of up to some even 400 kilometers. Effective financial year 2025-2026, the Ministry established 5 more regional offices in Iganga, Masaka, Hoima, Kabale, and Lira. These offices are currently in rented premises. There is need to construct a permanent regional office over the 5 years period, and this would require at least 8 billion shillings. The committee recommends that 8 billion be considered for the phased construction of these offices over a period of 5 years to enable the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs execute its mandate across the entire country. Right Honourable Speaker, construction of offices for the African Humanitarian Agency. In 2024, the government of Uganda bidded and won to host the Secretariat for African Humanitarian Agency. But the condition was that the hosting country constructs offices and residences in 2 years. The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development signed the commitment on behalf of government. This included providing office and residential accommodation as the construction takes place. This altogether required 360 billion over a period of 2 years. However, the ministry requires 200 billion for the first year to commence this construction of the African Humanitarian Agency offices. Presently, no funding has been allocated. So the committee observes that the failure to provide these funds for the construction of the headquarters means that the country loses the opportunity to host this very strategic agency. We therefore recommend that 200 billion be provided in this financial year 2026-2027 to enable the ministry to start construction of the office project to fulfill the commitment made by our government. Under vote 101, which is judiciary, the committee noted a need to fund the timely disposal of cases, both civil and criminal, facilitation of court sessions, daily hearings, and daily court operations in the 269 operational courts, management of election petitions, facilitation of court-summoned witnesses who at least not less than 60,000 in total, conduct of locus visits at various court levels to facilitate a minimum of at least 55,112 visits, and facilitation for court assessors, at least 3 per judge. To achieve timely disposal of cases, Judiciary requires an additional 48.57 billion, and the committee makes a recommendation that these funds be available to enable the mandate be achieved. Right Honourable Speaker, we still grapple with case backlog in this country. The Judiciary plans to increase the case disposal rate from 58% financial year 2024-25 to 60.6% financial year 2026-2027. This will reduce the backlog from 24.2% to 22.2% and dispose of 291,544 cases by the end of 2026. Hence, the need for an additional 20.12 billion in case backlog reduction strategies such as special court sessions. The committee, however, noted that a significant number of cases committed to the High Court remained unheard for years, alongside infrequent court appearances and extended intervals between hearings. Additionally, the committee is concerned that the plan towards the reduction of backlog, as projected by Judiciary, is not satisfactory because of the minimal percentage. The committee has recommended that the funding requested by the Judiciary to tackle the issue of case backlog be deferred temporarily until a comprehensive plan is provided. Implementation of the legal representation at the expense of the state in capital offences in line with the judicial legal representation at the expense of state. The committee noted that Article 28.3 of the Constitution requires that every person who is charged with a criminal offence that carries a sentence of death or imprisonment for life is entitled to legal representation at the expense of the state. Similarly, the judicature legal representation at the expense of the state rules 2022 has revised the rates upwards for facilitation of advocates on state brief. To be able to fulfill this mandate, the Judiciary requires an additional 31.97 billion. The committee recommends that 31.97 billion be provided to the Judiciary to facilitate advocates to hold these cases on state brief. Automation of courts to eliminate delays in the management of cases. The committee was informed that the Judiciary plans to roll out electronic case management system (ICMIS) to additional 20 court stations, which include, among others, Masaka High Court, Masaka Chief Magistrates Court, Kalangala Chief Magistrates Court, Sembabule Chief Magistrates Court, Kalungu Lukaya Grade 1 Court, Mpiji High Court, Mpiji Chief Magistrates Court, Gomba Chief Magistrates Court, Butambala Chief Magistrates Court, and Insanji Chief Magistrates Court, Masindi High Court, Masindi Chief Magistrates Court, Chiriandongo Chief Magistrates Court, Bulisa Chief Magistrates Court, and Chigumba Chief Magistrates Court, Mubende High Court, Mubende Chief Magistrates Court, Mitiana Chief Magistrates Court, Kasanda Chief Magistrates Court, Chegegwa Chief Magistrates Court. Right now, I'm reading all of them to show the balanced nature throughout the country. The committee recommends that 13.739 billion be provided during the financial year 2026-27 to enable judiciary automate case management business processes to quicken adjudication and also reduce person-to-person interactions, hence mitigating corruption incidents. Budget increase and misalignment. The judiciary's proposed budget for financial year 2026-2027 stands at 633.97 billion, representing a 43.7% increase from the financial year 2025-2026 approved budget of 44.223 billion. The committee noted a 103.5% increase in the travel budget of the judiciary from 43.79 billion to 89.154 billion, with the MPS showing extensive travel inland provisions totaling 77.0 billion and travel abroad to 12.2 billion, representing a 14.1% of its total proposed budget. Notwithstanding this increment in the judiciary budget, the case backlog continues to increase and with the key activities underfunded within the budget. The committee notes that the increased travel budget be retained only to the extent that it directly supports judicial work, especially locus in core visits, estimated at 20.95 billion, out of station court sessions, and pre-bargaining proceedings that facilitate case disposal. The committee observes with concern that pre-trial and trial detention remains a systematic challenge within the judicial system, as evidenced a high portion of inmates on remand, which is 48.4%. This situation points to persistent case backlog, yet this matter is not addressed within the budget provisions. In addition, the committee observes that whereas the judiciary budget has been growing over the years, the same key mandate areas like timely disposal of cases have not attracted substantial funding, hence causing backlog. Therefore, the committee recommends that the judiciary budget be realigned and Uganda shillings 10 billion be removed from the proposed travel budget of judiciary, reducing it to 89.154 billion to 79.154, and the monies be reallocated for case backlog reduction and a progress report be shared forthwith. Under Vote 102, Electoral Commission. Following the presidential directive, the Commission has since January 2023 temporarily relocated its headquarters to the National Housing and Construction Company Limited premises at Plot 1 to 3/5 7th Street Industrial Area on rental basis. The construction of the headquarters at Lubowa, Wachiso, is supposed to be implemented by National Housing and Construction Corporation, which will provide land, design, construct, and furnish the Electoral Commission Center at Lubowa within a period of 18 months. The project is crucial for enhancing the operational efficiency, institutional capacity, cost saving in the long term, and electoral preparedness for the upcoming electoral activities, and failure to provide the 62 billion required in this financial risk stalling the project and undermining the Commission's preparedness for the upcoming critical electoral milestones. It's the recommendation of the committee that the government prioritizes and allocates 62 billion in this financial year to support the construction of the Electoral Commission headquarters at Lubowa. Uganda Registration Services Bureau. The URSB plans to construct an archival center which is essential for preserving historical records. The center is expected to streamline information management, enhance accessibility, promote collaboration, and ensure the long-term preservation of documents. The project requires 12.5 billion. The committee recommends that 12.5 billion be provided to the URSB for construction of the archival center. Honorable colleagues should remember these have shifted from a rented premises to now their home, which they did in a record time. Establishment and implementation of Directorate of Copyright and Neighboring Rights. The URSB plans to establish and implement a Directorate of Copyright and Neighboring Rights, which aims at protecting intellectual property, fostering creativity, and ensuring compliance with national and international copyrights. The Directorate would serve as a cornerstone for thriving creative economy, promoting fairness, innovation, and sustainable development. URSB requires 2.759 billion to establish and implement the Directorate. Right Honourable Speaker, we have just passed an amendment on the copyright law, and we strongly recommend that this money be provided to open up this facility. Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions. Right Honourable Speaker, despite the recent recruitment of 125 state attorneys, for which the department is grateful, the Directorate of Public Prosecution staffing stands at 759 against the approved 1,734, which represents 43% staffing level. There is still a critical need for recruitment of both legal prosecutors and administrative staff to expand the scope of reach of criminal prosecution services. The Office of the DPP requires an additional funding of 10 billion shillings for recruitment of both legal prosecutors and administration. The committee notes that with the improved staffing, state attorneys will reduce on the current workload and improve on perusal of case files. The committee finds this requirement critical and recommends an additional 20 billion instead of 10 billion requested be provided to the Office of the DPP during financial year 2026-27 to facilitate the recruitment of staff to close the prosecutor case ratio and increase the scope of criminal prosecution services across the country. Honourable colleagues, there is need for a prosecutor for every magistrate at the district courts. And here you find one prosecutor serving 3 magistrates. And so you cannot have the proceedings continue unless this prosecutor has moved from this court to another court. Hence the justification for an increase from the requested 10 billion to the 20 billion. Establishment and operationalization of offices in 32 districts. The Office of the DPP is not present in 32 districts and more than 100 outer courts with grade 1 magistrates, and this has affected delivery of prosecution services. In order to establish and operationalize a resident state attorney station, the Office of the DPP requires additional 8 billion shillings to establish a resident state attorney station in each of these districts at a unit cost of 250 million shillings. The committee deems this requirement very important and therefore recommends that the Office of the DPP be provided with 80 billion to implement the construction of these stations. Construction of offices and residential premises in hard-to-reach and hard-to-stay areas. As part of strengthening criminal prosecution service delivery, the Office of the DPP has established 148 offices both at regional and district levels. However, officers failed to find decent office and residences for accommodation in some of these areas, and the Office of the DPP requires 20 billion for construction of offices and residential premises to attract officers to serve in the hard-to-reach areas and hard-to-stay areas. The committee makes a recommendation that 20 billion be provided for the development budget of the Office of the DPP during this financial year to construct their own up-country offices and residential premises. Transport equipment. The committee observed that the Office of the DPP requires 18 billion for procurement of 72 vehicles to support movement of officers to and from courts to avoid sharing public transport facilities with the suspects, relatives, and their accomplices while in prosecution of case files and other sensitive documents. And officers who serve hard-to-reach and stay areas of Bukwo, Yumbe, Pakwach, Maracha, Kalangala, Kotido, Koboko, Bwera, among others, including supervision by management. The committee recommends that 18 billion be provided to the Office of the DPP during this financial year to provide transport equipment for those areas. Security. The Office of the DPP also requires security at all its field offices to guard against unauthorized intrusion in the protection of both persons and property. Staff also handle high-profile and sensitive cases and often have been exposed to security personnel threats and their families. This affects the delivery of prosecution services. This requires additional funding worth 80 billion for security at all offices of the Director of Public Prosecution Offices. The committee recommends that this money be provided during this financial year to cater for security and all its field offices. Right Honourable Speaker, vote 103, Inspectorate of Government. Equipment for investigations. To strengthen corruption investigations and prosecution, the Inspectorate of Government requires modern surveillance, secure communication, digital forensics, and field investigation equipment. Priority items include covert surveillance tools, encrypted communication systems, digital forensics and data analytics tools, and portable evidence documentation kits. These will enhance intelligence gathering, improve evidence quality, and increase conviction rates, particularly in complex corruption cases. Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development provided only 600 million shillings against a requirement of 5 billion. This will not be sufficient as the Inspectorate of Government continues to receive requests to investigate these cases urgently. It is estimated that investigating a high-profile case to conclusion costs approximately 20 million, while normal case costs between 3.5 to 5 million. The committee notes that corruption has persisted, and these equipments will help in tackling the corruption problem. The committee recommends that an additional 4.4 billion be provided in the financial year 2026-27 to the Inspectorate of Government to facilitate the acquisition of modern investigation equipment. Vehicles for Inspectorate of Government Office. The Inspectorate of Government relies heavily on vehicles for field investigations and information gathering. Currently, 78% of its fleet is overdue for disposal, including 34 vehicles exceeding 240,000 kilometers and 92 vehicles over 5 years old, while 6 vehicles lost in the 2021 bomb blast remain unreplaced. Maintaining the aging fleet costs approximately 1.5 billion annually, and vehicles assigned to the Inspectorate of Government, Deputy IGG, and regional offices are frequently breaking down. For the last 10 years, no funds have been allocated to the IG for procurement of vehicles. To ensure safe and efficient operations, the Inspectorate of Government requires 4.2 billion to acquire new vehicles for all regional offices and the head office. The committee recommends that an additional 4.2 billion be provided in this financial year to the Inspectorate to provide vehicles. Recruitment of staff and reduction of backlog cases. The Inspectorate of Government currently has 407 staff and approved establishment of 596, which is 68% staffing level. Meanwhile, complaints reported to the Inspectorate of Government have significantly increased from 1,529 in financial year 2021 to 2,942 in financial year 2024-2025, largely due to rising corruption and increased public awareness. Without a corresponding increase in investigative staff, this has led to backlog of over 2,000 cases. To strengthen investigations, support verification of leaders' declarations, and effectively address corruption cases, particularly those related to priority government programs such as the parish development model and the ATMs under the tenfold growth strategy, the Inspectorate of Government requires 15.6 billion to recruit 100 additional technical staff covering both wage and non-wage costs. The committee recommends that 15.6 billion be provided in the financial year 2026-2027 to the Inspectorate of Government to cover both wage and non-wage components. Specialized training for investigations and prosecutions. To enhance effectiveness in handling complex corruption cases, the Inspectorate of Government requires specialized training in investigations, prosecutions, digital forensics, asset tracing, and other technical areas. This capacity building will strengthen staff skills, improve case quality, reduce investigation timelines, and increase conviction rates, particularly for high-profile and technically complex cases. The Inspectorate of Government requires additional 1.52 billion shillings for specialized staffing training. The committee recommends that 1.52 billion be provided in this financial year to facilitate specialized training in investigations. Parliamentary Commission. Article 79 of the Commission gives powers to Parliament to carry out oversight legislation and representation functions. The Parliamentary Commission experiences a budgetary shortfall of 18.77 billion meant for legislative oversight and representation functions. This, if not addressed, will impede timely and responsive oversight, legislation, and representation functions. Only 4% of the total budget of Parliament, which further impedes their effective oversight functions. The committee therefore recommends that an additional amount of 18.77 billion in this financial year be provided to cater for the non-wage current shortfall and 12 billion for the support roles of committees. Medical insurance. Parliamentary Commission requires an additional 5.636 billion to cater for both medical treatment abroad for members of Parliament and the increased medical insurance premium for the members of Parliament under the medical insurance scheme. Members subscribe to various medical insurance service providers. However, the annual premium has increased because of the need to cover members beyond the 70 years of age, as opposed to the current 65 years. The committee recommends that the additional 5.63 billion to enhance the medical insurance for members be provided. Honorable colleagues, in a special way, I want to extend appreciation to the leadership of Parliament and the technical team for effectively discussing this budget being a statutory budget with the executive and having it covered to that tune. Uganda Human Rights Commission. Conducting capacity building to the newly elected local council leaders on human rights-based approach. The newly elected local council leaders play a critical role in planning service delivery, community mobilization, and oversight at grassroots level. However, many of them assume office without adequate knowledge and practical skills in the human rights-based approach, which is essential for inclusive, accountable, and people-centered governance. The requested funds will support a nationwide capacity building program aimed at equipping local council leaders with knowledge, skills, and tools to integrate human rights principles. The Uganda Human Rights Commission requires 1.5 billion for capacity building of the newly elected local council leaders. The committee recommends that 1.5 billion be provided during this financial year to the Uganda Human Rights Commission to facilitate training of newly elected district local council leaders on the human rights-based approach. Upgrading of Moyo Field Office to regional office. The Commission intends to upgrade the Moyo Field Office to a regional office in order to enhance delivery of human rights services within the Northwest Nile region. The committee recommends that 500 million shillings be provided to the development budget of the Uganda Human Rights Commission for this financial year to upgrade this field office to a regional office. Law Development Center. Completion of construction of all LDC multi-storage building of Uganda shilling 64.7 billion. Due to limitation of physical facilities, especially farms, rooms for training students, the Law Development Center embarked on the construction of a multi-storage building to reduce the ratio of students to classroom space. The center embarked on the construction of a multi-storage building to house 20 farm rooms. Currently, phase 2 has been completed. However, with the current development ceiling, LDC is not able to embark to the next phase 3 due to insufficient funds. Completion of the building has been delayed due to inadequate funding. LDC therefore requires 22.147 billion to resume and sustain project activities, safeguard previous investments, and ensure the timely delivery of the requirements, of the required infrastructure as per the development commitment, approved schedule to support legal education and training in Uganda. The committee recommends that government provides the 22.147 billion during this financial year to enable the Law Development Center resume and sustain project activities as highlighted above. Procurement of transport equipment. The committee was informed that the current fleet age profile indicates that nearly half of the LDC's vehicles have exceeded their optimal operational lifespan. and are due for disposal, emphasizing the need for phased replacement strategy to maintain effective service delivery. This situation has significantly constrained the implementation of up-country activities, particularly the transportation of teaching staff from Kampala campus to regional campuses, as well as the facilitation of legal aid services, including the movement of staff to courts, prisons, and remand homes across regional and satellite clinics. This requires 0.8 billion. The committee recommends availability of these funds to enable the LDC procure the vehicles. Acquisition of ICT equipment. LDC plans to acquire networking equipment, servers, enterprise storage equipment, data center power bank solutions, farm room interactive displays, modern computers and printers, biometric solutions, VoIP solutions, CCTV systems, among others. This requires 4.75 billion. The committee recommends that this money be provided. Judicial Service Commission under Vote 148. The committee observed that current budget structure for Judicial Service Commission is heavily skewed towards general administration and support services, which are largely fixed or semi-fixed costs. They include things like rent, retainers, and so on. While these are necessary for institutional functioning, they do not directly generate justice sector outcomes, such as complaint resolution, disciplinary action, or improved recruitment quality. The Commission noted that whereas the Constitution confers upon a wide mandate, it fully appreciates that the resource envelope cannot support total focus on all the responsibilities envisaged by the Constitution. It is thus guided by the fact that limited resources demand that it prioritizes aspects of its mandate which no other government agency can execute, and thus work with a priority scale which will rank need by importance and urgency to guide focus on the resource allocation. It is reported that it is in its strategic direction that complaints handling, disciplinary control, and recruitment of judicial officers and administrative and other staff of the judiciary be considered key priority areas in next financial year, and thus the fund allocated under capital development should be revised and scaled down to allow for more funds to be allocated to the key priority areas. The committee recommends that the main ministerial policy statement of the Commission be amended and funds be allocated for training, procurement of technology and vehicles, legal education, training barazas, public engagements, radio talk shows, and rent be repurposed towards the restructuring of our legal staff and strengthening, in particular, the departments of complaints handling system, recruitment, research, and law reporting. Case backlog and disciplinary targets. The committee also raised concerns about very high numbers of case backlog files and inquired about the concrete strategies put in place to curb this issue by the Commission. To achieve the targets for disciplinary cases concluded and the percentage backlog disposal rate, the number of investigation trips and disciplinary committee sittings and retreats to handle the disciplinary case backlog must all be increased. In addition, to which the current staff establishments must be increased in order to reduce staff workload under the disciplinary control. The Commission reported 136 case files that are backlogged and 220 registered complaints awaiting consideration. These demand full participation and involvement of the Commission at all stages for quality, and they are also highly capital and human resource intensive, which requires 96 committee sittings and 200 cases investigated on spot. To increase the backlog disposal rate and improve the turnaround time for concluding a registered complaint, the committee therefore recommends that the Commission be given an additional 1.6 billion to effectively dispose of the cases and complaints filed at the Judicial Service Commission. Formalize inter-MDA collaboration frameworks. The Commission reported that several MDAs already operate functional systems and programs that overlap with Judicial Service Commission mandate, such as ICMIS, EDRMS, among others. They noted that developing parallel systems could be fiscally inefficient and contradict government policy on shared services. The committee notes that this allocation would leverage some costs already incurred by other MDAs, achieve economies of scale, and reduce unit costs of service delivery. This also mitigates the risk of underutilized or failed systems, a recurring problem in public sector ICT investments. The committee recommends that the Commission be supported in building such collaborations to enable faster digitization at lower cost, improved data sharing, and case tracking, plus stronger interinstitutional coherence in the justice sector. Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to present and invite the House to consider the MDAs, MPSs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Honourable Baka, you have something to add or deduct?
Madam Chair, on page 14, I just have a small correction to make, such that the recommendation speaks to the body of the paragraph. The Judicial Service Commission asked the committee to recommend that their ministerial policy statement be realigned to channel funds to key priority areas, including training, including recruitment and complaints handling. So the recommendation on page 44, at the extreme end of the page, is that the committee recommends that the ministerial policy statement of the Commission be amended, and the funds that are allocated for training, procurement of technology and vehicles, legal education, training, barazas, public engagements, and radio talk shows, and rent be repurposed towards the restructuring of Commission legal staff and strengthening, in particular, the departments of complaints handling, recruitment, research, and law reporting. I beg to move.
Thank you. Professor Isaac.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me thank my brother, Honorable Taylor, for that good report. But I want to begin with a general observation that cuts across reports that have been presented so far. I have not had reference to income. And in this context, I mean the ceilings provided by the Ministry of Finance, the resource envelope. Now, without reference to income, we are likely to end up with wish lists, and the Budget Committee will find it challenging to harmonize wish lists. I'm raising this because sometime back when I was on the Budget Committee, the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs and the Committee of Education, their reports and what they needed to be done could consume the entire budget of the Republic of Uganda. Just two committees. So without referring to the income, the resource envelope we have, the recommendations will be wish lists. That's my observation. But let me make support of two areas. Hopefully they will not fall in the context of a wish list. Madam Speaker, in most cases, foreign policy is a reflection of domestic policies and how they are implemented. Uganda was able to win the bid to have a Secretariat of African Humanitarian Agency because of the way we have been handling refugees and internally displaced persons. This is an important area that can improve our rating globally. So I would strongly support the recommendation of the committee that let's have this secretariat established. We already have good practices. People have been coming here to benchmark how we handle refugees and internal displaced persons. This is an area of interest which would even attract Honorable Oriem to support very strongly. My second and last observation and support, the area of Electoral Commission. Those of you who have visited the Electoral Commission, the first inconvenience you get is parking. Parking. You have nowhere to park the vehicle. You go inside, the room that provides photocopies is too small for a national and independent Electoral Commission. So we need really urgently to have a better housing, spacious place that can house the electoral commission, so that when we go there, we can have we can be served very well. Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, you're moving faster than the whole House. When you talk about the income, we don't discuss income sector by sector. We have a resource envelope, and that will be under Rule 157 and Rule 159, where we'll have one resource envelope that we are going to be distributing from one sector to the other sector. Isaac.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I thank the Chair for a good presentation. Madam Speaker, most of the money we seem to allocate to these areas ends up in development in terms of administrative costs. So we find that the money going there is actually being used on administrative costs and very little going on developmental purposes. And that is why we are finding that most of these judiciary offices, the courts, are just depleted across the country, or even non-existent in most cases. And as a result, we are getting a lot of delays. And underfunding of most of our areas within the judiciary is causing a lot of backlog in cases. And this is very, very alarming for our country. You find that even there is no money, a case is simply delayed simply because there is no money to go and transport the witnesses to come and give their testimonies in court. And as a result, we have people behind bars for over 2 years because of simple issues of logistics on this matter. And for that matter, we find that for many citizens, Madam Speaker, especially the poor, you find that access to justice is limited or delayed, and this is what ends up reducing trust in our judiciary. So I do welcome the little that we are putting in for development purposes. I do hope that it can be increased as we move on through the next financial years. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to join my colleagues in thanking the chair of the committee. Right Honorable Speaker, over a decade ago, the government came up with a strategy for rationalizing ICT services, in which they are putting together things like licensing, the internet, and then the data center services, where they're bringing things together so that they could save some money. Now, the committee has requested for 4 billion, and they want to set up data centers. I want to know how they're liaising with the likes of National Information Technology Authority, NITA-EU, to save on costs for the government. Second, I want to agree and thank the committee for proposing the reduction in the ratio between the prosecutors and the magistrates' courts. 3 years ago, the government opened the magistrates' court in Omoro district, but people have to travel over 48 kilometers to go and meet a prosecutor. And that has caused so many delays and challenged our ease of access to justice. So I want to agree with the committee that you allocate the money so to reduce the ratio between the prosecutors and the magistrates' courts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have something to say? Okay.
Right Honorable, thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank the committee for a very good report. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommended government to find 60 billion shillings for the headquarters of Electoral Commission. Madam Speaker, we are now in a democracy that is not about to go away, and therefore we need the Electoral Commission to be stable. The whole country, the Commission has only one regional headquarters, that is in West Nile, and they have been looking for money to spend on renting offices in every district. So it will be important we prioritize giving Electoral Commission these 60 billion shillings so that they construct a befitting headquarters. But eventually, I want to appeal to this House to continue to give Electoral Commission money so that they can construct regional offices. You have been consuming those services. You go there as a honorable member of parliament, but you're going to squeeze the place where many other people are coming. So I want to appeal to this House to continue to support the Commission so that they can have a befitting facility, first of all at national level, but eventually at the regional level. Eventually we'll be glad to see a regional office in Elira, a regional office in Karamoja, a regional office in Mbale, a regional office in Tororo, in Soroti, in Masaka, Fort Porto, Hoima, and so on. Because the democracy we have here is not about to go away. As you all know, NRM has come to stay, and many other political parties are going to be there. So we need a stable and a facility that is befitting. I thank you very much.
Honorable Banda, then Honorable Seungu, and Semuju. Semuju, then Seungu.
Thank you so much, the Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. The Right Honorable Speaker, I want to add my voice in thanking the Chair and the committee for the good report. And I have two issues, Right Honorable. One is to support the recruitment of staff, especially St. Anthony's. Because these prosecutors, Right Honorable, you find that, like in Intoroko, we don't have any State Anthony. You have to travel to Bundubujo. And when you go to Bundubujo and ask, they tell you that we don't have staff, so you must come to Bundubujo. That's one issue. Another issue is about the offices. I thank the committee. They have recommended the 8 billion for new stations, especially resident State Anthony's. The Right Honorable Speaker, it's so disturbing that we have elderly, we have poor people who have to travel, because here they are saying there are 32 districts that lack stations, and Intoroko is one of them, because people have to travel to Bundubujo and get these services, and those who cannot travel to Bundubujo with transport costs don't get services. So I really recommend or add my voice on the recommendation of the committee, that 20 billion for recruitment and 8 billion for the new stations, including Intoroko. I want to thank you, Right Honorable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am concerned with the independence of the judiciary. These days I have been going to court because of the case of Dr. Kiza Besigye. Sometimes you wonder whether you are in a military court or in the normal judiciary. They no longer grant bail. Sometimes they act as if they are part of the DPP. And that's how people who fought for freedom, people who sacrificed their lives like Dr. Besigye, that all of you are enjoying here, has been in prison for now a year and a half. As we recommend for more funding, there must be a value to the public. It's not only Dr. Besigye who is in prison. The other day you had Kenyans arrested. The judiciary issued an order. Later on, the president said they were in a fridge. We have Sam Mugumia. He was a candidate in my party. He was kidnapped from Mbarara. Up to today, we don't know where he is. And there are hundreds of other young people arrested during the elections. They go to the judiciary over small matters. I have been arrested many times, but I have never been denied bail. This time, almost everything, whether it's public nuisance, one time they charged me with the public nuisance. They are not releasing. So the judiciary seems to have been captured by the executive. And I don't know whether the Honorable Kafuz is here as the lead of government business or is trying to find out in which capacity. But it should concern you. it should concern you the erosion of the independence of the judiciary and the attempt to replace the judiciary with the military. Because the moment you lose the judiciary, you are in trouble. Disputes are now being arbitrated by politicians. So as we ask for the backlog, the quality of the judgments, the denial of rights by the judiciary, it appears to me and the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs should be concerned. Because you will never know when you're going to be there. And it doesn't matter whether you're NRM or not. Recently, you remember 3 NRM MPs arrested. And they were treated the way we are being treated. I saw the Honorable Akamba being beaten like a chicken thief. So when you're talking about the independence of the judiciary, we're talking about your own right, and it doesn't matter your affiliation. So it should concern every member of parliament. As we ask for more money for the judiciary, Madam Speaker, the judiciary needs to be more accountable. They need to stop being partisan. I have seen Dr. Wesley appearing before a judge, and it's as if he has committed a crime against that particular judge. The anger. So these cadre judges that you, Kafuz, and others are appointing, one day you will appear before them. We have a colleague.
Honorable Ibrahim, yes. Kafuz does not appoint any judge. It is the Judicial Service Commission that appoints, that interviews and recommends judges. Honorable Kafusi does not have a hand in any judge.
Madam Speaker,
an action of any judge should not be put on anybody. It shouldn't.
Madam Speaker, I am choosing my words advisedly. I attended the funeral of a former member of parliament, Patrick Chigondo. His wife, who is a judge, Justice Jane, thanked the president for appointing her to help her pay school fees for Chigondo's children, publicly. So what you are saying is what is provided for in the law.
Is he President Museveni?
Madam Speaker,
the
because
only person with the appointing authority in this country is President Museveni.
Madam Speaker, because you are a speaker, I am fearing to engage you. So that's why I am using Kafuz.
Let's discuss the ministerial statements.
Madam Speaker, therefore,
Ibrahim.
Yes. Can I conclude?
Yes, Ibrahim.
The committee should not be concerned only with the quantitative performance of the judiciary. Because if you look at the functions of members of parliament, if you read the articles of the constitution that established this parliament, one of them, apart from making laws, is that we must protect the constitution. That's what the constitution says. So we have a duty beyond just a legislation here. We have a duty to protect the constitution. So if the rights that are enshrined in the constitution, I was shocked. Dr. Kizabesji had spent the mandatory days for him to qualify for bail. And then I'm not going to use Ruakafuz, Madam Speaker. But the handlers changed it, and the judge said he is not aware that Besji was before the court martial. Therefore, his counting of the days started. So really, this engineering, judicial engineering is causing us trouble. So everything else will become irrelevant, whether it is electoral commission, whether it is what. So since we have a duty to protect the constitution, the committee should be concerned with the quality of judgment, not just the quantity to clear the backlog.
I think we have very good judges. We have very good judges. And the president should be credited for having very good judges.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the chair and the committee for this report. But my interest is on page 36, where we look at the resident state attorneys. Through Madam Speaker to the Minister, whether you like it or not, the money you are spending on feeding prisoners now, who could be given bail through having resident state attorneys in the grade 1 magistrate courts, would be less than what you need here. You are spending over 8 billion having people who can be bailed out, but because of not having resident state attorneys, like district like Kalungu, we have a resident state attorney is taking Masaka, the other ones handling Bukoma and Simi.
I think that point has been taken.
Yeah, but I was giving just the issue of the money they require so that they give it adequate attention. Then, Madam Speaker, LLDC, the performance is good and we are giving them money, but you need a lot of checks on them. As we talk now, Madam Speaker, you are likely to get a petition from the students there. They recruited over 3,000 students and over 1,500 students are being discontinued, and they are complaining, how does this happen? That's an abnormal curve in education. That you are discontinuing 1,500 students who have failed maybe some papers, checks and balances. Take a lot of interest in that area. Then, Madam Speaker, as I conclude, he talked about the chief magistrate areas that are going to be funded. This instrument was passed. This is a Kalungu, meaning that all the cases from Kalungu being handled in Masaka, they are under wrong jurisdiction. They are under wrong jurisdiction.
After the amendment of the law.
Amendment of the law. If you created the chief magistrate area for Kalungu, then why are we still having matters going to Masaka? And as a result, you are having case backlog because you have refused to create that chief magistrate area in those districts that you created. Kindly give it attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable members, one, it is a fact that we need headquarters for EC. We need that office to be built. For the first time I saw a very organized place. I thought it had buildings. Kumbe it only had tents. That is the Electoral Commission. So we need to support EC and have that place constructed. And I was reading a message from Honorable Enos Asimwe that he supports the increment of money for medical for Parliament. That is one of the beneficiaries. It is out of that money that has saved him. Learn to appreciate where it is. It is out of that money for medical that all the members of Parliament, the ministers, all those people go for treatment outside the country. In some cases, even when we see that it is an emergency, because of the bureaucracy in getting a referral, we end up sending our medical board. We end up sending our members, like how Honorable Enos was. We had to take a decision and say, we have to save a life. Honorable Chep Torres was in a very bad condition. We had to save a life. We said, no, we must do this and send him for treatment. So when you see that that money in the medical board, it is for you, all of us here. It is for all of us. And we want to thank the President for giving us the money anyway. Yes, Chairman.
And also increasing the age from 65 to 70, right, Honorable?
Yes. Honourable members, pursuant to Rule 156(2), I am referring the report to the Committee for Consolidation, Harmonization and Reconciliation to the Budget Committee. You have something to say about your taxes, Attorney General's Chamber.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. I just wanted to amplify one issue that was presented in the committee report. One, I want to thank the committee. There's one nagging issue that has been disturbing us in the ministry. Right Honourable Speaker, judicial officers do not pay tax. They're exempted. Residents, state attorneys under the office of the DPP do not pay tax. They're exempted. But state attorneys under the Attorney General's chambers, they pay tax. And the two, those under the DPP and under Attorney General's chambers appear before the same judicial officers. It's been a bit discomforting for our state attorneys. I am glad that the report has highlighted it.
DPP doesn't pay?
They are not paying. Judges are not paying.
Judges are paying.
But our state attorneys, yes, our state attorneys are paying.
Members of Parliament? Members of Parliament?
They pay. So I would have wanted, my prayer is that since the two state attorneys appear before the same judicial officers, it would be
Honorable members,
if we
just
could
for
put them at par.
harmonization, for harmonization.
Yes, and harmonize.
Yes.
Thank you very
That
much.
should be done. But you know how DPP got it? Get it through the same way. Okay? You know how they got it. Me and you know how they got it. So get it through the same way. As Parliament, we are not going to say don't pay, but you know how to get it. Because if we are to say don't pay, then we will start with ourselves. Yes. Next.
The Sectoral Committee on Environment and Natural Resources.
Honorable Chair, kindly give us the general observations, the recommendations, and the budget. Honorable Rico, have you heard? I'm giving you 10 minutes, then I go to finance, because finance must go on tax bills.
Right Honourable Speaker, I'd like to thank you together with the honourable colleagues for the opportunity for me to present a report of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the Ministerial Policy Statement and the budget for financial year 2026-2027. Madam Speaker, I note with very much reverence the necessity for the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development to come in just after us. Madam Speaker, I beg of you that you give us a bit of sufficient audience so that this committee, which has a report to do with two very big sectors, gets an opportunity for your listening. Madam Speaker, I wish to lay on table a copy of the original report together with the minutes of the committee in lieu of the consideration of the ministerial policy statement.
Please
Madam
lay.
Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you.
Right Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues, in accordance with Article 1554 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, Section 12 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, and Rule 149 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, the Ministerial Policy Statement for the financial year 26-27 were presented before Parliament. In light of the above, I now present for your consideration and adoption a report of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources in respect of the policy statement and draft budget estimates for financial year 26-27, covering the following votes. Vote 017, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. Vote 139, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. Vote 019,
Ministry of Water and Environment, and vote 150, the National Environment Management Authority, together with the following subventions: the National Water and Sewage Corporation, the Atomic Energy Council, and the Uganda Electricity Credit Capitalization Company. Madam Speaker, the committee considered the implementation trends, funding gaps, staffing constraints, external financing dependencies, and the extent to which planned investments align to the national priorities under the current growth agenda and the relevant National Development Plan 4 program. Madam Speaker, the votes under the committee's jurisdiction are strategically important to Uganda's economic transformation because they directly affect electricity access, industrial power supply, extractives governance, water access, irrigation, sanitation, climate resilience, forestry management, wetland protection, and environmental compliance. The committee notes that the policy statements for financial year 26-27 contain a broad array of projects whose successful implementation would have immediate political and developmental significance in the communities across the country, including the oil host districts in the Albertine, electricity transmission corridors in central and western Uganda, industrial parks in places like Tororo, Mbale, Nakaseke, Luero, Nakasongola, as well as water supply schemes in districts such as Terego, Moyo, Lamo, Zombo, Agago, Pader, Namutumba, Mayuge, Sembabule, Mitiana, Isinjiro, Kazu.